Welcome on to the show tonight, guys. This is Studio 321. This is your host, Eddie B. All right, guys, so listen. Tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about the Minnesota situation. I mean, I know everybody's seen the video of the girl, getting shot 1,000 times, and everybody's probably getting sick of watching it. So I'm not going to show you the video, but I wanted to zoom out a little bit on the whole liberal movement, talk about that for a minute, kind of try to do a little breakdown on that. What my opinion is of it. And then we will go into a little detail on the actual incident that happened. But anyways, guys, if you like my videos, please like and subscribe. You guys know I'm out there trying to spread the word, man. Like-minded people got to spread the word because we think alike and got to stick together. But anyways, so here we go. So I've been trying to wrap my head around this whole movement. And I'm trying to figure out, what makes these people tick and think, like these liberal folks. And it's really hard to figure it out because they don't make any sense. A lot of their ideas conflict with a lot of their other ideas. Okay, and I'm going to go through a list of stuff like that. So listen. So liberals always say, they want better pay. And it's true. Like, we need better pay around the country, right? But then they get mad when you deport low-wage workers that keep the pay down, and it's like, so you're sitting there looking at that going, man, one of the ways that we get the pay up and force companies to pay better is by getting rid of folks in the country who will work for less. And that's always the immigrants, they'll work for nothing, so we try to get rid of them. The liberals get mad about it, okay? The liberals always say they want better health care, right? But then they say you're inhumane when you don't want to give health care to illegals. Well, you can get better health care if the whole medical system isn't clogged up by illegals. When you add 15 million illegals into a country, obviously those people come from third world countries that don't have good health care. So they probably need a lot of health care right up front anyways. Bad teeth, a lot of disease, a lot of problems. And so immediately they're going to go right in and clog the system up. So then the liberals complain about we don't have good health care, blah, blah, blah. And look, there's things that we need to do to fix that system. It's problems with the system. But also part of the problem is the fact that they're just clogging up the system. Too many people clogs up the system, right? So, that doesn't make sense. And liberals always say they want affordable housing, right? But then they get mad when you deport the illegals who are taking up all the housing. Okay? If there's a lot of housing available, then the housing has to compete for people to move in. So they lower their prices so people pick them, right? That's the way that it goes. But if you have not enough housing and too many people, then what happens? The housing raises the prices. And then you got 10 illegals living in one house. And there you go. There's no room for anybody else. So again, it's always these contradictory statements. They want this, but then when you go to try to fix the problem, they're mad at you for it, right? They get mad about high taxes, but they call you a racist. When you're in their state like Minnesota's going on right now, busting a massive tax fraud, right? $9 billion, a lot of money, for fake daycares, fake healthcare systems. They uncovered this. They go into the state. They're trying to, and that's all tax dollars. That's all federal and state tax dollars that are getting wasted on that. So they're going in and trying to bust all these people, and they're mostly Somali. So what happens? Now the liberals are calling us racist. You see what I'm saying? So, like, what is the cure to this? There is none. Their own, the things that they want, you try to solve it, and then they attack you for trying to solve it. It doesn't make any sense. So the question is, in my mind, why are liberals always mad? Okay? Because they're always mad about everything. They move from one thing to the next. It's like, let's protest this week for this, and let's protest next week for this. It's over and over and over again. The only conclusion I can come to, man, is that these people are just angry people. They're angry at life. You know what I mean? They've gotten to a point where everything around them makes them mad, and they get used to crying and screaming about everything, right? Like for example, I'm a conservative. I have certain views, and look, I share some views with some liberals. You know, some things I'm a little bit down the middle on, but for the most part, I'm conservative, right? If something's really bothering me, let's say, I don't know what it is, something, related to my town, maybe they're going to bring some businesses and crush all the neighborhoods or whatever. I might go down to City Hall. I might prepare a statement, say it in front of the city council. I might do my part to protest, right? Do what I can. But after that, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to do my regular job. I'm going to do my regular life, take care of my family. Because that's what I do. I don't think these people do that type of thing. I think they hunt for the next thing to cry about, and they spend their entire lives running around crying about stuff. And the truth is, you can spend your whole life doing that, but it's a complete waste, because in the end, what happens is you end up with nothing. Nothing. Okay? Yes, there are grievances that need to be addressed. We go in front of school boards. I've been in front of the city council talking about stuff before. I went in front of the school board before talking about some grievances I had. That's fine. But I'm not there every single week. I don't go every day. I'm not in the street throwing stuff at people, spitting on people. That's ridiculous, right? And I just think these people are angry about life. But something they need to understand, okay, is the rest of us are starting to get real tired of that, okay? And most of us, like me, I work all day. I'm tired. I don't have a lot of extra time to go out and do stuff, because I'm busy working, taking care of the family. But we're getting tired of what's going on, okay? Luckily, I live in an area where I don't deal with much of that. I'm in Central Florida. We have great, political leadership down here. They're working on stuff. The problems that we complain about, they're working to try to fix. They're actually right now, which I'm always talking about, they're trying to eliminate property tax in Florida in 2026. If you own the home, they're trying to eliminate property tax. And I appreciate that, right? Saves me a lot of money. Again, so I don't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that they're dealing with in these northern states. But people are getting tired of it, man. They're getting tired of the disrespect. They're getting tired of people blocking their cars in, getting tired of people throwing stuff at their cars. It's only going to go so far. And then, the people like me, we're quiet and we just, we don't want to do this stuff. But when you push people like that to their limit, they're real nasty, real nasty. You know what I mean? And people are going to really start getting hurt. I don't see how this gets fixed. I don't. Again, you try to fix the problem for these people, and then they attack you for that. The problem is there. They cry about it. You try to fix it, then they attack you for trying to fix it. So there's really no end to this. It's insane. And again, it's getting to a boiling point where people are really going to start getting hurt, because people like me, again, we don't like getting involved in stuff because we're busy people, but when we do get involved, it's going to get really bad, because you see these people on TV, these liberal folks, they're not tough, they're not, they think they're violent people, but they're actually not. They're scared. Oh, and a lot of them are just kind of nerdy weirdos. And when they draw the wrong people out from the other side, it's going to get terrible for them. But that's just a warning. Take that for what it is. But anyways, so let's talk about the Minnesota situation itself, right? I've seen the video 1,000 times. I think everybody has. I've seen a bunch of different angles, a bunch of information comes out. Information comes out just trying to smear the girl, saying she's a lefty wacko. Information coming out trying to smear the guy, saying like he had PTSD because he was military his whole life and he got drugged by a car before. But none of that junk matters. That really doesn't matter. Here's what it is, okay? There's a lot of maybes in this situation, okay? Just a ton of them. There's a ton of maybes, right? Maybe she panicked and hit the gas and didn't know what she was doing. Maybe he thought she was going to run him over. You know, coming from his view, that's a definite, right? Maybe she was going to run him over. Maybe he overreacted from adrenaline. Maybe she overreacted from adrenaline when her wife said drive, drive. You know, she just hit the gas and took off. You know, there's so many maybes in this situation, but there's one thing that's not a maybe. Okay, this is 100% fact. The fact is she should have never been there doing that. Okay, and this is the problem with liberals right now. Um, I don't know if they don't have jobs. I don't know if they don't have anything to do all day, or I don't know if they just think they're like part of some kind of like cool spy network now. But they treat this like it's some kind of game. Okay, like, hey guys, I'm gonna drop my kid off to school, and why don't you and me go harass some ICE agents? Like, yeah, let's go have some fun. Well, they might see it that way, but the people on the other side are agents who are armed, who are there to do a job, who is actually a dangerous job. So they don't see it like that. This isn't playtime for them, okay? So what you have is a clash of two worlds that they don't understand each other. And the truth is, she should have never been there in the first place, okay? You keep hearing all this stuff about, oh, she's a mom. And, the press does this every time. When a guy gets killed, he was a father of two. The truth is she was a mom, right? So that just tells you she should have even known better. Like, when you have kids, you cannot risk that kind of behavior. She couldn't even risk going to jail. Like, she's a single mom with a kid. You can't risk going to jail at that time. I know when I started having kids, it completely changed my behavior in life. Completely. No more getting in trouble. I didn't go out and drink anymore. I was like, okay, man, I got to straighten up. I got to keep my stuff together because I got kids now. They depend on me. Well, I don't know what she was thinking, but she should have been thinking along those lines, and she never would have been there. Now, this is something else I wanted to bring up too, okay? About the liberal behavior. I have seen lately that some women have been bringing their children to these protests. I saw a lady with a little baby strapped to her chest. And, she was a liberal kook talking about, oh, I wanted my baby to feel the energy and all this and that. And listen, that infuriated me. That's so far beyond what normal human behavior should be. Like, number one, where's that kid's father? Okay. If my wife came home and said, oh, I took our baby to the protest, which I already know has ICE agents and violence and cars and people throwing stuff. If my wife did that, you'd be calling the cops to my house and arresting me, okay? Because there'd be some real problems at home. However, that type of behavior, it blows my mind. And that shows you what we're dealing with these people. You're basically saying, I'm going to take my kid to a protest, and I dare you to hurt me or my kid. You're using your kid as a shield. You are. That's what you're doing. You're using your kid as bait so that somebody hurts you or your kid so that you can cry victim. Think about that, folks. That's what we're dealing with here. It reminded me of something. My brother did about 7 years in between Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, he was an Army Ranger. He used to tell me stories all the time, when he came back, and he just, we'd be sitting around talking. He didn't live in the area that I live in, but we'd visit and we'd talk about stuff. And he told me, he said, when he was in Afghanistan, a lot of times what happened is you would say you're attacking a house, right? You got some insurgents in the house, you're fighting them or whatever, and you accidentally blow up the neighbor's house, right? Because you're attacking that house. Well, they don't have insurance over there. So what happened was our State Department would be over there and would have representatives who would pay cash. Like, it's almost like insurance payout. So, let's say you bombed the neighbor's house accidentally, you hit the wrong house. So they would go over there and they would say, look, we're sorry, we didn't mean to blow your house up. Here's so much money, whatever payout they were given. So, and they also did the same thing for if friendly people, got killed accidentally, right? So these people over there got wind of all this. So what they started doing was playing that system. And he told me that they used to throw their children out in front of convoys to get them run over so that they could get paid. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Like, that doesn't even sound right. And you say, look, he said it happens so often, okay, that they put a mandate down from like whoever their command was, that they were not allowed to speed through these towns anymore. Now they used to speed through the towns in convoys so that they couldn't hit them with IEDs or rocket launchers, because if they're speeding fast, it's hard to hit the target, right? He said he used to run like 70 miles an hour through these towns in rows. And the IED remote bombers couldn't judge it correctly because they're usually like a quarter mile off, so they're looking down from a mountaintop, trying to and a lot of times you would be far past the IED by the time it blew up. So he said these people would throw their children out in front of the convoys, and get them run over and killed, and then the convoy would stop. And then these people would be running out of their houses. Oh, you killed my children. You killed my children. You must pay me. You must pay me. And he said it was disgusting, and I thought to myself, man, like, how do people do that? Like how's that even possible? But then look what we're dealing with these people in Minnesota, these liberals. Like, it's definitely not as far down on the scale, but anybody that would take their children and basically use them as a human shield, at a protest is disgusting. Those are disgusting people, okay? And I don't know how we're going to deal with them. They're not going to go away. I mean, we can't just beat them all up. I guess we could, but I mean, what's that? Maybe that'll drive them back into their homes where they won't come out bothering people anymore. But like, what's the answer to that? They're in America. We're stuck with them. I'll be honest with you. I wish we could trade them for the immigrants. If you asked me, I'd deport liberals and bring in the immigrants. I would. If it was legal, I would, because these people are not only do they not work, they hate everything. They don't appreciate nothing about the country. Don't even like the country. You know what I mean? And we're stuck with them. It's like you can't do anything about it. And a lot of times, I see people on TV. Some of them are good people, but just misguided. Like, you listen to what they say and you go, well, no, that's wrong, and no, that's wrong. But again, how do you reach those people? You know what I mean? It's very frustrating, man. I guess I'm kind of venting tonight. I'm online talking to these people all the time. Their lack of knowledge and intelligence is just, it shocks me. And again, some of these people are educated. They'll be like, oh, I have a bachelor's degree in so and so, and I'm like, and okay, and so you believe all, and they'll tell me a bunch of crazy stuff, and I'll be like, and you actually believe that? Like, think about what you're saying, go back through it, and ask yourself, does that sound right to you? And it's just like, golly, man. But anyways, I don't know what the answer is, but what I'm saying is this. One thing's for sure about the Minnesota situation. That girl should have never been there doing that. If she's never there, that never happens. Okay? And these liberals, they better get a handle on their behavior, because they're getting worse every day. And when this finally breaks, man, I'm telling you, what's going to happen is they're going to get to a certain point where the government can't control them. Then what the government's going to have to do is unleash the other side on them. And when they do that, they're going to learn a real bad lesson, because most of us don't want that drama. But trust me, we got more drama than anybody wants if we have to bring it out. But anyways, guys, I hope you liked my video. If you do, please like and subscribe. This is Eddie from Studio 321. I'll talk to you soon. You guys have a good night. Thanks.